In today's politics, it seems increasingly common for governments to do things that are not good for the people. This applies not only to the Dutch government but also to the European Commission. This raises questions about how democratic it actually is when governments do as they please, even if it goes against the will of the voters. It's strange that governments, elected precisely to represent the people, sometimes act as if their voters don't matter. They behave as if they are very important and can decide everything. This raises complex questions about power in politics, who is responsible, and how well governments actually represent the people. It shows that there is a difference between how democratic a government should be and how politics actually works. It's important to understand why governments sometimes deviate from what their voters want. This is about how governments gain more power than the people they represent, and what consequences this has for the fairness of democracy. These are complex questions that we need to discuss seriously in academia and in politics. It's amazing how much money is spent on wars, while it doesn't even help people. It seems that these wars only cause more problems and perpetuate violence. This is not only discouraging but also bad for people's well-being and for global peace. If we were to use a small part of that money to fight poverty in our own country, it would make a big difference. It's frustrating to see money being wasted on meaningless wars while people in our own country have to pay more and more for food, fuel, and healthcare. The government should think more carefully about how they spend the money so that it really helps people to have a better life, both here and in other countries. It's clear that the priorities are not right now. People deserve better governance, and it's time for our leaders to acknowledge that and do what is right for the people they represent. There is also something strange about asylum seekers going back to their own country for vacation while receiving money from the country where they have applied for asylum. This raises questions about how fair the asylum policy actually is and how it is implemented. It's extra strange because many of these asylum seekers are not allowed to work in the country where they stay, even though they have skills that would be useful. For example, doctors who could save lives in their own country but are stuck in a system that doesn't use their talent. This raises many questions about immigration policy, how people are integrated into new countries, and who is responsible for what. It's important to help people who are struggling, but we also need to consider the people who already live here. A fair immigration policy, based on both humanity and realism, is needed to solve these problems. It's important to look at how we can really help people who need help. It seems that people who are already struggling often don't get enough support. Once people are sidelined and have health problems, it's hard to come back. We need to seriously think about how we can help people stand on their own 2 feet. It's strange that while new houses are being built, many people still don't have their own homes and have to live with family. It seems that asylum seekers who have not contributed much to the country are often treated better, which causes anger among people here. This feels unjust. The plan to send away farmers because of too much nitrogen seems crazy. We need to carefully examine policy decisions and whether they make sense. When we talk about nitrogen, we also need to consider other things, like dust from the Sahara ending up here. It seems that these things have not been taken into account enough in the decisions that are being made. Not only in the Netherlands, but all around the world, it seems like people are becoming less certain. Things that people could always rely on are now slowly being dismantled. It seems like we're going back to a time when people faced financial hardship, as if that's a good thing. But in reality, this only leads to more stress, making it difficult for people to change or rebel. Especially those who are already struggling are hard hit by this. This is due to unequal policies and decisions that make life increasingly difficult for some people. It means that those who are already struggling are being left further behind. This can lead to more unrest and less trust in those responsible for protecting everyone's prosperity. Moreover, this can lead to people becoming stressed, which can in turn lead to mental health problems such as anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. This can weaken communities and make it harder for people to work together effectively. If you work for a boss, you understand that you have certain responsibilities. But if an employee uses that position to boost themselves and only seeks praise from others, it's reasonable for the boss to look for someone else to take over the task. In the Netherlands, as elsewhere, we value people taking responsibility for their mistakes. But sometimes it seems like leaders in government get away with it when they do things wrong. It seems like they're rewarded with a sort of immunity, even when they make serious mistakes. The idea that these leaders, instead of being punished, might actually get opportunities to hold higher positions in the European Union, reinforces this feeling. This is truly frustrating. It makes people feel deeply unfairly treated and undermines trust in the democratic process in government. If leaders don't fulfill their responsibilities without facing consequences, then the trust in the entire system is at stake. It's essential to establish good and fair ways to hold leaders accountable for their actions. Only then can people regain trust in the government, and we can work towards a fair society where failure is not rewarded but punished. It's a harsh truth that we've grown up in a society where fear plays a significant role. From a young age, we learn to constantly worry about what others think of us. This fear can be suffocating and prevent us from truly being ourselves and realizing our full potential. But it's important that we overcome this fear and focus on what truly matters. We need to create a culture where honesty and responsibility are rewarded, both on a personal level and in our leaders. We must have the courage to stay true to our own values, even if others disagree. To overcome this fear, we need to consciously try to break free from the limitations holding us back. We must embrace our own authenticity and recognize that our worth does not depend on what others think of us. This can be challenging, but it also opens the door to a life where we are truly free and fulfilled. Additionally, we need to work together towards a cultural shift that encourages individuality and values honesty and integrity. This means rethinking existing social norms and expectations and actively contributing to a community that is inclusive and supportive. By working together to break this culture of fear, we can create a society where everyone is free to be themselves and realize their full potential. This is a goal worth striving for ourselves and for future generations.